All right. So first and foremost, welcome. I am excited that students wanted to do this because this will be the first chance to test out a group advising sessions where we're going to hit some core topics that I think will touch everybody. You're free to ask specific questions about your individual situations, but just know that don't be afraid to ask any question because somebody else might be going through the exact same thing or having the exact same question. And the goal is to help as many of you as possible, as efficiently as possible. Um, so with that, I'm gonna just jump in here. We're gonna talk about a number of things in this session today. I'm sticking with the big stuff with LSAC because I've been asked several times about different tools on LSAC and how to use LSAC. So we're going to go through a lovely tutorial of how to use LSAC. There are also some other really cool resources available that you can use whether you're at the beginning of the process, freshman, sophomore, for planning out, and maybe if you're an eager beaver and really want something to work on, this can really be good for you, but especially if you're kind of towards the end of the game and looking for some um, good strategies and successful tools to use. I think this will be very eye-opening as far as the resources that you never knew you had. So um, for questions, I do plan to answer questions, and I am going to try and make sure that this is um, very useful for everybody. So the only thing I ask is if we're in the middle of going over some detailed information, just put a question in the chat. If it's a question of, oh shoot, I missed something or I'm a little confused about like a demonstration, then you're welcome to unmute yourself. But just so we keep everybody from talking over one another, try and go first to the chat. I've got one eye on the chat and the other eye on the presentation, so I'll try and get to you guys ASAP. All right, and with that, we're going to jump right in. So first and foremost, LSAC. I believe all of you are familiar with what LSAC is at this point. If you're not familiar with LSAC, feel free to raise your hand. I can go a little bit further in detail about what they are, who they are. But just generally speaking, um, these are the things that you kind of need to know and start making yourself familiar with before the application process begins. So first and foremost, LSAT Prep, Khan Academy, those are the two biggest tools, most important tools that LSAC has in their arsenal for getting you ready for the law school application process and for that ever so important test. The fee waiver, which I'll talk about in just a moment. Um, the law school forums and law school recruitment events, we had one just yesterday. I don't know if anybody was able to jump onto that, but it was very beneficial. I was manning the chat and answering questions in the chat. There were so many students signed on to, I think, a good 200. And that particular event was geared towards students that wanted to go to schools that are in North Texas or and Texas Tech. So yeah, it was very beneficial. So you see information about those types of events posted on LSAC's event calendar. Um, in better days, when we're in a post-COVID era, you won't have to deal with um you know just virtual. So a lot of the events that they'll post may be a live event where you can go and meet a law school recruiter in person. Until then, the virtual forums, virtual events are all going to be posted on there. Attend as many as you can. This is the best time to be alive because we're all being forced to go virtual, and that means you get to go and see places and do things and speak to people that you would otherwise not have access to because they were, hours and hours and hours away or too expensive to go to. Plus programs. So pre-law undergraduate scholars programs. These are programs, and I believe one of our own actually went to one very recently. Um, I, I can't speak highly enough about these programs. They are law school preparatory programs. And not only are they law school prep, but they also really do walk you very thoroughly through the application process. Um, they are anywhere from 2, 3 days, like a weekend, to 2 weeks. Some of them are months over a summer. So they usually have some type of stipend available. So if you are going to the one in Houston, you get $1,000 stipend, and you you get to use the rest of those funds for, LSAT prep or whatever else. If you want to go to one that's, maybe in Florida, then that $1,000 can go towards airfare and hotel costs. So I mean, they're really, really beneficial. I can show you where on LSAC's website to find those. For those of you that are going to law school in the fall, plus programs are a really great way to spend your summer before law school. So that's another tool in the crayon box that I think we can dive deeper into. If you're just joining us, I mentioned um, this is going to be heavily interactive, so feel free to pop into the chat and ask any questions as you think of them, and we'll get to those ASAP. All right, so diversity scholarships. LSAC has them. I'll get into it later. American Bar Association has them. They're everywhere, and I mean everywhere. And there's multiple ways to classify diversity, by the way. So don't be ashamed of applying to those, even if you feel like you don't fit a standard diversity checkbox. And then lastly, general law school research. LSAC is great for it. All the ABA approved law schools are pulled into those areas. Okay, so once you start applying, these are the main things that you need to keep in mind. And these are things that people may not even know about. So if you're getting ready to apply or are applying and you've never heard of some of these things, um, definitely, feel free to pop a question in the chat, or if you feel like we need to spend a little time talking about it, let me know. But LSAT score reporting is what LSAC does. Once you take the test, they report the score to the school. Transcript submission, you have to submit every transcript to LSAC. Recommendation letters have to go through LSAC. They can't come from you. Application documents, so your personal statement, your resume, all that stuff has to go through LSAC. Paying CAS fees. I'm going to talk about CAS fees in 5 seconds when we go straight to the LSAC website. Um, but there are fees associated naturally with applying to law school. And the more you know ahead of time, the better, because it helps you to plan and prepare. I see a hand raised. Drew, what's your question?
Yeah, so I submitted my applications to LSAT
Hmm.
after we talked, and then so like my question was is that like do I need to submit like do I need to resubmit transcripts after like I graduate?
Good question. No. So if you are happy with your transcripts as they are, you're not going to have to submit unless you're so for example, your fall grades come out and they are spectacular and it actually bumps you up, and I don't know his GPA, so I'm just using this as an example. It bumps you up from like a 3.6 to a 3.75 somehow, and you're like, oh my god, that actually keeps me from being a splitter, and that puts me over their GPA median, so I'd like to update the transcript. So at that point, yes, I would strongly recommend submitting a new transcript. Now, a lot of schools will ask for confirmation that you've graduated, and a transcript will be good for that. But schools have their own different processes for doing that. So
Okay.
um, you'll find that out from the school.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions before we move on to the LSAC tutorial? Great. All right. So I'm going to show you guys a different screen, and hopefully it's the right one. It's not. That's okay. All right, so we're gonna go to the advisors. So you guys are getting all sneak peek behind the curtain here. And I'm gonna no. Take you guys to my sim site. The simulation site is a mirror. Anybody that already has an LSAC account will know this is like an exact mirror of what your actual accounts will look like. So Amber White 16, the age I wish I was. Okay, so let's see. All right, this is going to be your home page. I want to make sure that you guys memorize this because a lot of times when I'm advising you, I'll tell you, okay, it's going to be under the credential and CAS tab, or it'll be under the search for law schools tab or what have you. So the more you become familiar with your homepage and dashboard, the better. That way, whenever I'm advising you, you're not like, what are you talking about? But, so first and foremost, registering for the LSAT. This is cut and dry, straightforward. You go through, you obviously read this, but here is where you would sign up to take the LSAT. It goes through what acceptable photographs are, unacceptable photographs. I bet they went through several of these before they had to post this. But you can here sign up for specific tests based on, when you're going to take it. Now, they're going to give me the error message because it's like, hold on, what's going on? You're not a student, so it won't let me get farther than that, but it's fairly cut and dry. You're going to sign up for the test date that you want. You're going to sign up for the testing center that you want. I'm going to be honest with you guys, for here until the foreseeable future, they're going to be offering LSAT Flex. There is no, I don't say no light at the tunnel, but they don't know when it's going to be safe to offer live testing again. And especially since we're entering the winter months, I think anybody that's expecting to take the test, if you're waiting for them to say, okay, LSAT Flex is over, we're going back to live, do not do that to yourself. Just take the test. Just take it. It's going to be Flex for a while. So the LSAT writing section, that's separate from the test now. So anybody that's rejoining us from years and years ago, if you were previously a part of LSAC, the writing section was a part of the test. It's no longer a part of the test itself, so you don't take it at the same time. You have a brief window of time after you take the test to complete the writing section. And for some, that's great. For others, you know, I've heard mixed reviews. My rule of thumb is just get it over with. Take the test. If you need a few hours to, reset and go and have lunch or something like that, and then come back and do the writing section, do it. If you need 24 hours and then come back and do it the next day, do it. But don't let it wait. I know at one point they had it where, you could take the writing section at any point within a year's time. Why on earth that was the case, I don't know. But yeah, don't wait a year to take that. I ask you a question. To get an individual game plan, do I make an appointment with a pre-law center advisor? My LSAT is scheduled in March, but just wanted to make sure I understood everything needed for applications. Yes, so if you would like an individual appointment, feel free to email me, Amber White, or you can send an email to prelaw@uta.edu. Multiple people check that, and we can get something scheduled, no problem, for individual questions. But for general questions and general guidance and feedback, stay on here because there's probably a lot that you did not know that will be very, very beneficial. So CAS, I mentioned CAS. That is a fee that is charged by LSAC. You will have to pay that before they process anything, okay? For those of you who have paid your CAS, great and bravo. It's so important. You will need to go in and add your institutions, and before they process your transcripts, you have to have paid CAS. Before they process your rec letters, that you will have to have paid CAS. So really quickly, you're welcome. Really quickly, I'm going to show you how to add an institution. All right, and if this is familiar with you guys, please hang in there. I promise we'll get to some more juicy stuff very, very quickly. Okay, so adding a degree granting institution. I'm going to delete this one and start fresh. All right, so UTA is basically going to be everybody on this call, your degree granting institution, unless you're planning to jump ship on us and go somewhere else before you graduate. So I'm expecting that you'll put UTA here, Texas, and we're down towards the bottom, Texas Arlington. Okay. The dates you attended. I attended from 2012, I don't know, to 2019. Okay. And I got my degree May of 2019. All right. Degree type. Don't be alarmed if your specific major is not here. Um, and I tell people, if you have a liberal arts degree, it's okay to put arts and humanities. Sometimes they don't have your major listed, and again, that's okay. You can give a generality. It's not going to hurt anything. But when in doubt, if you don't see it, just put liberal arts. Okay, so we're just going to put liberal arts here. I was a fantastic student, so 3.75 and up. And notice that when they ask for your GPA, and this is what's so important, they don't ask for the exact number. They ask for a range, right? Because odds are your GPA, especially if you're this close to graduation, is not going to go from a 2.5 to a 3.9. It's just not mathematically possible unless you've only taken 5 classes at the university, okay? So when people ask me, is it okay to go ahead and use my summer transcript when I'm getting ready to apply for the fall? Absolutely, because your GPA is not going to really hop up too much or drop down too much unless you do something incredibly we're just going to say stupid. So so yes, don't expect that your grades are going to be moving too much. Financial obligation. Do you have outstanding debt to the institution? We're going to say no, but if you have outstanding debt such that the school won't release your transcripts, you have to put yes. That way they at least know that you're acknowledging that you had you took classes there, but that for whatever reason you're not able to submit a transcript. It's not an excuse though, because some schools, even though LSAC will allow you to submit your application without that transcript from that institution, the law schools may still demand it. And I'll tell you, I've actually had a student that had to go and settle that debt for at least 1 or 2 schools that he applied to get those transcripts before they would even consider his application. And he had an otherwise fantastic application, but it was just debt that had accumulated while he was in the military, and there was nothing that he could do. So, all right, graduate degree. For those of you who are going to take a gap year and go to grad school, you add that here. It's okay if it's not complete. And by the way, I used older dates just for the ease of this, but if you're still if you're still in school, your expected graduate is May 2021, that is also okay. You can't do this early though. So I'm gonna say wait until you're in the last 2 semesters to do this. Don't do this if you're a freshman or a sophomore. That it's a waste of your time. Other institutions. So if you went to TCC or Dallas County Community College, and you only took 2 classes, all right, you still have to submit that transcript. And I say it all the time, if you got dual credit in high school, you still have to submit that transcript. That's going to be under other institutions. You're going to add it here. When you're done, oh, internet. Does anybody have any questions about international? I've walked through students through that one before. Anybody need international before we move on? No? Okay. So if for whatever reason you do happen to have an international program, one of my students had difficulty securing the transcripts. So yeah, that's something that we need to talk about one-on-one. English proficiency, all those things. We're not going to get into that. I don't think anybody that might be on that call has that issue. Drew?
Yeah. So Miss White, I had like a TCC dual credit classes.
Yep.
And on yours, I saw it said a Hearst, but like whenever I put it on my cast, like I just had like TCC. Is that fine? Like it just says Tarrant County College District.
Okay, so you don't know what campus you got it at? You got the credit?
No, it was because it was through dual credit, and they didn't tell us like like I already submitted my transcript and they said they
Yeah.
already received it and like they processed it.
Well, then
But
it's okay. Yeah. So
okay.
if for whatever reason you got your associates or something like that, and you were going to the Southeast campus or what have you, and their particular campus is the one that houses your academic record, and you need to request that record from that institution, because
Mhm.
what's going to happen? They're going to generate a transcript request form based on what you submit here. So the transcript request form is going to have that school's ID. Can you see this ID number here?
Mhm.
And I think the
Mhm.
one for UTA is like 6013, 6031, something like that. Yeah, 6013. So it's going to have that specific number. It's a code that LSAC
Mhm.
is going to use to process it quickly and correctly for you. So if
Mhm.
there is no code, then don't worry about it. If they processed it and the grades and record is posted on your academic summary report, no problem. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Okay then.
Yeah, good deal. Okay, so we're going to continue. All righty, I'm confirming. Uh-oh. And you can identify your ethnicity, you can identify all of that. That was what I skipped over. What that does is it allows law schools to more accurately recruit for you based on information that you provide. So if you don't mind sharing more specific personal details about yourself, it allows them to use that in recruiting tools. I know way back in the day when I applied, they and you get an email asking for confirmation. Back in the day when I applied, they asked whether I wanted to divulge my ethnicity. I did put African American, and so I got recruitment emails from BALSAs at different institutions. BALSAs is Black Law Students Association, and I went on to join a BALSA at the school that I went to law school with. So I mean, it's really good if you feel comfortable sharing that information, because you never know what information may sway you to joining a specific program. All right. So once you put in your information, you're going to have to request your transcripts. Um, does anybody have any questions about how to request transcripts? If not, we'll move forward. Okay, put it in the chat if you do, and we can come back to it. I'm going to show you how to request a letter of recommendation. So when you are looking to apply, you're going to have to submit letters of recommendation. They're going to have to come from the law schools themselves. They cannot come from you. Okay. So first things first, you're going to reach out to that person and say, "Dear Mr. Skywalker, I really think you're able to speak on my academic success based on the class that we took together or the 5 classes that we took together. Would you mind writing my letter for law school?" And Mr. Skywalker says, "Are you kidding? Yes." Okay. So first and foremost, do you waive your rights to access this letter? Always put yes. If you do not, you are letting the recommender know and the law school people know you do not trust your recommender. FYI. So never hit no. Always hit yes. Waive your rights to look at it and trust that they're going to sing glowing praises. Now, if you have doubts about what that person is going to say, do not ask them. I repeat, do not ask them. Yes, Mrs. White has worked on the admissions, the law school admissions side before. Yes, Mrs. White has seen negative letters before. That just tells me that that student begged for a letter in spite of that instructor or whomever he was, in spite of them saying no thank you. Okay, so if a person says no thank you, just accept that. Do not beg for a letter. Move forward. There is someone else on this beautiful earth to ask. Okay, so I would like to put his information in. Mr. Luke Skywalker. Okay, Jedi Knight. Okay. Uh, let's see. I'm gonna put as much information as I know. So if you don't know the exact address, I'm gonna just put all this in here. If you don't know the exact address, just Google their address, their business address. Don't ask for anyone's home address. Um, yeah, don't ask for anyone's home address. Um, boop, 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 boop. Okay, this part is important. How many letters are you asking this person to write? So if they're, let's say, and I've had this question several times before. Let's say a person wants to use a recommender twice. Uh, can I have my AT&T mentor in addition to professors for a letter of recommendation? Absolutely. If you have an AT&T mentor or a mentor attorney or a mentor of some kind that's watched you grow, develop, or that knows you well enough to write a nice or decent letter, yes, absolutely. That is a welcome addition. Great question. So letters of recommendation. How many letters do you want that person to write? If you want them to write more than one, make sure that you put an accurate description of the letter that you're wanting them to write in the description, right? So this description is not only for you, but it is for them because when you request that they write the letter, they get a description. Also, that's a good note to remember that if you're like, uh, I I have seen where some students will put like a note to themselves, like uh, all law schools might use. Don't put that because that just tells your recommender can see your description, and so now they're thinking, okay, well my letter means nothing, so don't do that. But where the multiple letters come in from one person, let's say they're an SMU law alum, so you want them to write an SMU specific letter because they've asked, they have stated that, you know, since they know you're applying to SMU, they want to support you in that way. So SMU law school letter, okay, and they're going to also write you an all law school letter. All right. So now when you actually request the letter, they'll be able to see the descriptions for both, and they'll be able to upload an appropriate letter based on, you know, what you've indicated. Okay. And oh, I didn't put a phone number. Well, what's Mr. Skywalker's phone number? Mr. Skywalker and I share a phone number. Okay. Um, So now your recommender information has been saved, and I now have to assign the letter appropriately based on the schools that I'm applying to. Before I show you my assignment, I'm going to show you how to add a school, and then we're going to get off of this simulation site to talk about some other things. So when you're searching for schools, make sure that you focus on member schools, schools that are members of LSAC. And not that I'm the trumpet and the campaign manager for LSAC, but if they're a non-member school, that means they're not ABA accredited. Any school that's not ABA accredited puts you in jeopardy of not being able to take the state bar for whatever state you're trying to take. Don't do that. It's just not, it's not worth it. Now we're not talking about provisionally accredited or schools on probation from the ABA. We're not talking about those schools. We're just talking about schools that are 100% not member law schools. Just be careful. So if, for example, you know that there's a provisionally accredited school and they've been moved to a non-member school, that would be the only exception. But otherwise, focus your search on member schools. So you get in here, you what's the school? University of Memphis, Memphis Law School. All right. So I'm going to add University of Memphis to my law school list. Check. And I'm going to save the selection to my law schools. I think I have like 50 schools on my list by now. These schools should be schools that you are targeting and schools that you want to know a little bit more about. So this is my personal school list. It's ridiculous. Hopefully yours won't look like this is basically every school that's ever been erected. Just because I've done this tutorial several times. But so let's see, where's Memphis? Just make sure it actually landed on here. There it is, Memphis. So when you go to the school, you can find out all kinds of information about it, including um, a law school description that takes you to a separate pop out where virtually every detail that you can think about is on here. Their ABA data is very important because that's where you find out their current and past GPA and LSAT requirements. You'll also find out about diversity of student population, diversity of faculty population, their employment statistics, which we'll get into a little bit later. You really will want that information, and you can go straight to their website. They have great photos as well of the schools. So spend some time adding schools to your law school list and then use that as the jumping off point for research. Once you have begun your applications, or once you're ready to at least look into the application, you can click start and continue. I'm not going to do that on this one. We might dive deeper into that on a future tutorial. But you can start your application, and you can use that to take a look at what the requirements are for letters of recommendation, what the requirements are for personal statements, what the requirements are for supplemental documents. So it's very, very critical that you know where to find that information. All right, let's go back to credentials and CAS and look at my letters of recommendation. We're going to go to manage LORs. Stop me if I'm going too fast, guys. I've been watching the chat. I haven't seen any more questions. I just want to make sure I'm not flying so quickly that it's no longer a benefit. Here's Mr. Skywalker. Look at him. And here are his two letters. So first and foremost, I have two options, one view to print and the other email. Now, if Mr. Skywalker is very traditional and he wants to handwrite your letter, you can click view to print. That's going to print the request that has to accompany, and it's got a barcode and everything. That request has to accompany the letter, and he has to put that in with the letter in the mail, send it as a stamp, lick it, love it, send it on. Okay. For everyone else on planet Earth, I strongly suggest you email it, because all they have to do is type it, and they get a link. They click on that link and send it off through that link, and it's blessed and in your inbox before the end of the next business day. It's fast for them, fast for you, more importantly. And you know the minute that it's sent, you know the minute that it's processed. I even get emails at 3 in the morning saying your recommendation letter has been processed. So those are things that you definitely want to make sure are done. Do the email. All right, so once you go down, let's look at Memphis. Memphis, where are you, Memphis? I'm going to give up on it. There it is. Okay, I'm going to add a term. I want to apply to fall 2021. So now it's going to show me all the things necessary, the report fee, application fee, so on and so forth. And it's going to add the requirements for the letter of recommendation down here in Memphis. And so I'll be able to see, where is it? Oh, there it is. I'll be able to see which letters I want to assign for Memphis. Okay, so I want Mr. Skywalker, his letter. And what was he, L12, all law schools? Okay, and what's great about this is you'll be able to see if you accidentally are getting ready to send SMU's letter. Whoopsie, take that off. Want to make sure all law schools, all law schools. And what's also cool is you'll see that there are 4 spaces. 4 is the maximum. If a school has another maximum in place, it should limit the number that you can even send to them. Okay, so now I'm going to hit submit. And when I go to my page, I'm going to see those letters already assigned for Memphis. And let's say later on I get another rec letter and I think it's going to be even better than Mr. Skywalker's. I can always take them off. But these are things to know and prepare for. And I think LSAC is going to be your friend in the application process, in the research process, and in the study process. So if you don't have that website kind of bookmarked, make sure to do that now today. All right. So moving forward, back into our slideshow. Gosh, that took a lot of time. Paying for law school. How many of you guys have already thought, and feel free to just raise your hand when I say, questions to you, but how many of you guys have already started mapping out scholarships and financial aid and what you're going to pay and trying to, not have anxiety attacks about it? Is that everybody? Nobody? I see at least one of you have raised your hand. Wonderful. So good. And you can lower your hand. If you've already started thinking about it, I think that's a great thing. The purpose of this section is just to provide you with some additional resources to take a look into. Okay, first and foremost, FAFSA is how you're going to pay for law school unless you've got a full tuition scholarship. FAFSA is going to be the number one way. If you don't qualify for federal aid for whatever reason, there are other programs that you can link into to try and help pay for law school. Those diversity scholars programs are also very, very critical. The number one way that people pay for law school is through merit-based scholarships and need-based scholarships, mostly merit-based scholarships through the law school of their choice. So that's why GPA and LSAT are oh so important. The more merit you have, the stronger your academic performance, the more money you're setting yourself up for. Just FYI. ABA, the American Bar Association, also has a wonderful scholarship. I believe it's 15,000 a year. I know 15,000 is a number in my head right now, but they do it every single year, and they do it for students that are going into their 1L year. And it covers a huge chunk of their tuition. So all of you, every last one of you, there's zero reason why you should not be one of the recipients for that scholarship if you're planning to graduate and go into law school for fall 2021. So go on to ABA's website. I believe it's the Diversity Legal Scholars Program. Diversity. Just type in ABA Diversity Scholarship, and it should pop up when you do a Google search. The Wayne Wells Scholarship deadline November 1st. Anybody that has not at least put their name in the hat for that, you are just throwing money to the wind. If you get even a partial scholarship, it takes so much burden off of your tuition here, and you can use um, the funds that you would have had to allocate to tuition towards law school related whatever. Okay. Sidley Scholars, for those of you that are juniors now, Sidley Scholars Program is great because they are free LSAT prep. They pay for your LSAT prep. They pay for you to take the LSAT exam. They pay for your application fees, score report fees, and your CAS. That's that fee that's charged for housing all your data on LSAC's website. They pay for all of that. Plus, they fly you out to Chicago in better days, naturally. They fly you out to Chicago to do a lengthy workshop, teach you how to survive your 1L year, and provide a stipend for your first year of law school. So, again, if you don't apply for that, at least putting your name in the hat, you're throwing away free money. I don't believe in throwing away free money. Texas Appleseed, for those of you who have not already taken the LSAT, and are planning to take it not this semester, but at least next semester and beyond, is a great scholarship to help pay for LSAT prep. And I believe in certain circumstances, they will pay for you to take the test. So there's another opportunity for money. Admissions Dean, I'm gonna see if I opened a link for that. And Lex Scholars, both of those are very, very good. We actually have a UTA, two UTA Lex Scholars recipients for this year. Lex Scholars also does the same thing as Sidley. It pays for your LSAT prep, it pays for you to take the test, and it pays for CAS fees and beyond. So, um, I, again, don't miss free money. But admissions deans, these are law school scholarships. So for those of you who are going into, who are in your senior year, about to go to law school, pending a successful admissions bid, you should check out admissionsdeans.com. I'm going to go there here in a second. Um, I'm going to shift us to the next slide just to see what's next. Okay, yeah. So before we go into Lex Scholars, let me just run through the final year checklist. So communication is key. By communication, I mean communication with me. Making sure that if you have any questions, don't wait to ask them, because the last thing you want is for me to say, shoot, you missed that, or shoot, it's too late. Take the LSAT before your senior year. Don't wait. Be prepared to take the LSAT multiple times if necessary. So I always say that your timeline is to take the LSAT no later than the summer before your senior year, so that you can have time to take it multiple times. I want to say everybody that I have advised in the last 18 months has taken it more than once. Okay. The only exceptions are those that are just perfectly fine with their score. Okay. So given the statistic, leaving yourself as much time to take the LSAT and take repeats of the test is so critical. Um, Finalize law school list. Oh yeah, so we're gonna go over how to finalize your law school list. I love this tool. I'm sure many of you have never seen this tool. So excited about showing you this tool. Um, and then get organized with the planning worksheet. So everybody in their senior year, most of you probably, um, this when I say a planning spreadsheet, this is as good as it gets. Let me tell you, because it breaks down everything, both before the application process, before you hit submit on your apps, and then it leaves room to add additional details for after you've started applying. So first and foremost, you know, for the application process, what's the GPA and LSAT? So this allows you to kind of rank them in your mind. So I know my statistic is a 3.57 GPA and a 159 LSAT. I'm a little bit below on SMU, a little below on Baylor. I'm actually, what did I say, 159. I'm right at A&M's, and I'm above UNT. So the two on the end are the two that I have the highest chances are at. So I'm gonna try and make sure that they are set up on my spreadsheet in a way that prioritizes them if they become my priority. But as it stands right now, I have it set up that SMU is my number one, Baylor's my number two, AMM, UNT, so on and so forth. And you can have as many schools as you want. Um, but again, this keeps everything straight and it keeps you focused, because in this entire process, it's so easy to get bogged down and confused in everything that you have to do, everything that you need to have for these applications. Um, so it just really does work to keep you organized, and it's great for that. Um, Make sure that when you're putting in information, you put the cost of attendance, not tuition, but the cost of attendance, because for many of you, you probably will move away for law school. So it's important that you know, all right, what is it going to cost me for living expenses, commute, um, eating expenses, and so on, to go to this institution. And that way, when you get your financial aid offer, it's not without it's relative, right? It's relative to what you're actually going to be spending and not just tuition. Okay. So, again, we're assuming that I've already applied to these schools and we've had a very successful bid so far. So I was admitted to SMU, admitted to Baylor, admitted to A&M, but UNT Dallas waitlisted me, right? So at least I know my status with them. I've checked. It lets me know if you put waitlisted next to it, you need to also put dash um, uh, LCI, excuse me, letter of continued interest. You need to, for every school that you're waitlisted at, you need to communicate with them and let them know either A, thank you for the spot on the waitlist, but I'm no longer interested at this time in attending for fall 21. Or you'd write a statement of continued interest that says, yes, I'm absolutely thankful for the spot on the wait list. Please, if you share with me an admissions offer, I'm so happy to attend your program. Um, on, a lot of times, schools will um, bring you off the wait list based on how quickly you respond, or not just how quickly you respond, but that you responded to begin with. Because a lot of schools will see that a student is waitlisted but has made no effort to communicate with them that they're even still interested. So they will be in waitlist purgatory, like they're stuck. Okay. Don't be that person. Also, scholarship. So if you attended the program yesterday, we spent a lot of time talking about scholarship negotiation. Drew, you have a question?
Yeah, so like for example, like if I was waitlisted to SMU and
Mhm,
then they still hadn't given me like this like how much they were gonna give me like in financial aid,
mhm,
then and I wrote them like a letter of like I was interested in going,
mhm.
then would I have like if they took me off the wait list, would I have to go there or like
No,
would I have to like tell them or like mention in the letter that after I see, what how much it would cost me. You know what I'm
right.
saying?
Yeah, yeah, I do. So it's not binding. So the statement of continued interest, it is not binding. I just want to be clear. You're not saying if you admit me, I will go, and if I don't go there, you'll have my firstborn. Like, no, that's not it. You're basically though letting them know, hey, give me an offer if you get one. Or B, you can go ahead and give this seat to someone who is on the wait list, someone else who's on the wait list, or you know what I'm saying? It's
Mhm.
it's it's also a courtesy, if they are holding a place for you and you have already made up your mind about going to some other school that you were immediately admitted to, give up that spot and
Mhm.
let somebody else who is also on the wait list but really really wants to go there, let them have that crack at it. It's courtesy. So,
Okay. Okay
but
then.
so you're welcome. So with money though, I think it's the second part to your question. Um, you're not going to receive a financial aid offer or package of any kind until you are officially admitted. So you're never going to get, you've been waitlisted, but if we take you off the wait list, you're going to get 5,000. Like they'll never do that. So you're not going to get your package until after you've been accepted. It doesn't always even come at the same time as your offer of admission. Sometimes it's a day later, sometimes a week later. It's a reasonable amount of time later, but it's not always at the same time. Um,
Mhm.
so when you get scholarship offers, make sure that before you try to negotiate the amount that they're offering you, um, you're considering that relative to several things. First, what the rankings are for the institutions, right? So let's look at the schools that are on my list. Um, SMU and Baylor are more closely ranked. Okay, I think they're always like one or two places apart, three or four places apart. They're never that far apart. Texas A&M and Baylor are a lot farther apart, right? So, um, let's say A&M offered you more than SMU, uh, well, then you taking the A&M offer to SMU and saying, "Hey, can I get a little bit more money?" They're gonna say, "Well, the amount that we offered you is not necessarily comparable. We're a stronger program." They'll be kind about it, but we don't think that warrants an additional scholarship offer. Likewise, let's look at the two schools that the amounts are the same, 15,000 at both A&M and Baylor. Well, if you look at the cost of attendance, it costs more to attend Baylor than, and FYI, every figure on here is so none of it is real. So I don't want you guys thinking that Mrs. White, put exact figures on here. They were either approximations of what I recall the numbers are, or they were just completely made up. Um, so don't feel like this is accurate. Um, this is just for your practice and your benefit. So let's say Baylor and Texas A&M offered you the exact same amount, 15,000. Well, if you look, 15,000 is more than half of what it's going to cost you to go to A&M versus Baylor. It's what, a fourth. So, when you're trying to negotiate, let's say you were going to A&M to say Baylor's a higher ranked school, and they offered me $15,000. Can you go ahead and offer me more? A&M's going to say, well, we offered you more than a half ride scholarship, so no, you know. So again, it's about strategic negotiation. I think is the way that we want to look at it. Strategic negotiation. Make sure
Okay.
that if you choose to negotiate for scholarships, it is strategic. And there's no requirement to negotiate for scholarships. I don't think that you're going to be, not you necessarily, but any of you or any person is any less of a law student or future lawyer just because they're happy to take the initial offer. That's perfectly fine. It's just been in the
Mhm.
last, what, 7, 8 years, negotiation has been a big thing. So, I like to make sure that people are prepared to deal with it in the real world instead of just
Mhm.
hypothetically negotiating. All right. Any more
Okay.
questions about the planning spreadsheet?
One quick question, Miss White, about that. Like, so, like, if I got like accepted, but like A&M was offering me like the same amount as Baylor, and I was like interested in going to both, but Baylor costs more, and like I wanted to like negotiate with them. Would you could I set up a meeting with you to like how to go about that?
FYI, y'all can meet with me about anything. So yeah,
Okay.
if you have any questions about strategizing, again, what did I say in the last slide? Communication is key, especially during this time. I can't help you guys with something that you don't make me aware of. So if you have any concerns about anything, any element, even after you've been admitted, even after you've decided, if you're like, "Mrs. White, what apartment?" I have two options. What do you think? I can give you my thoughts on that if you want. I don't mind. So
Okay.
and that's absolutely not necessary, by the way. But my point is, don't be afraid to communicate with me about any questions of this process.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Um, all right, so moving forward, um, these are some other categories to potentially include because they will be very, very beneficial when it comes time to actually making the decision. 9 times out of 10, you're going to make your decision for what law school you're going to go to, not just based on tuition, not just based on cost of attendance. There are going to be so many other soft factors that you're going to be thinking about. For example, the location. Where is it? What's the climate? Is it always cold? If so, God, why did I apply there? Um, clinics. Are there any specific clinical opportunities? In the last lunch and learn, we talked about specific clinics and trying to decide whether or not you go to a school for a clinic or not. It's still good to know what clinics of interest or programs of interest that they have that drew you to apply in the first place. So you put that in the spreadsheet. Application fee or fee waiver. um I don't remember talking about the fee waiver. Shoot. Okay, so really briefly, um oh, never mind. I think there's a slide on it later. Sorry. So application fee. Did I request a fee waiver from that particular school? If not, double check to make sure that they're actually charging an application fee. And by application fee, I mean a law school application fee. Double check that they're charging one. You saw when I pulled up Memphis's information, Memphis was not charging an application fee. So to email them and request one is silly. But if they are charging application fee, you can email them and request a fee waiver. Or even better, you can meet them at a forum event, a law school fair. Let's say they speak at our institution, um, and you're applying to that school and you're applying that year. So you can email them or not email, but during the presentation say, "Hey, are y'all giving out fee waivers?" All good ways to save money, and you're highly encouraged to do it. Bar passage rate. This is important because, it's kind of eyeing the finish line at the start of the race. The law school means nothing if you can't pass the bar. Facts. Law school means absolutely nothing if you can't pass the bar. If that institution has a 51% bar passage rate, that is atrocious. A, you should not be applying to them. But B, what that really means is half of them can pass the bar. That's it. That's bad. That's bad, bad, bad. Okay. A lot of them end up getting in trouble with the American Bar Association, and a lot of them do fall off accreditation. But you don't want to get caught going there before they get caught by the ABA. So don't do that. Double check bar passage rate. A good rule of thumb is think of it as a grade. If they can't get a passing grade, aka passing bar exam of like 70-75% or better, that's probably not something that you need to spend too much time looking to attend. Um, Again, the higher the bar passage rate, the better. I think Baylor has like the highest bar passage rate in the state, I want to say, for example, off the top of my head. So make sure that you're looking into that. Where do you find that? You find that in that ABA data, that 509 report that I mentioned and showed you on LSAC's website. You can also get it by just Googling ABA 509 reports, and it takes you straight there, and you can see it for every single ABA accredited institution. Look at employment stats. If you know that you want to be an immigration attorney, you want to be a corporate attorney, how often are they making placements in that field? And furthermore, how often are they placing their students in markets where you want to be? So, for example, when I say what market, I may go to school in New York, but the market I want to be practicing in is Dallas. So, how often is that school in New York placing their students in the Dallas market? More broadly, it'll say Texas, but still, you can ask their career development personnel as well about these questions. Um, most recruitment officers will either know the answer or will be able to point you to the person who does know. So don't be afraid to ask these types of questions. And then put general pros and cons. If you have pros and cons that you know off the top of your head for the school, it will go a long way when you get to the end of the road and have heard from all the schools. You'll have a very, very detailed spreadsheet of all the things you like about the school before it gets muddied up with this is how much it costs and this is how much I'm going to have to spend moving and yada, yada, yada. If you can hold true to the reasons why you applied to the school in the first place and what you like about the school and what you don't like about the school, you'll be able to think more clearly about, is it worth it? Because even though the tuition may be higher at school X, it may be worth it to go there. You know, their ranking is so much higher. Their employment statistics are so much better. So even though it's going to cost me more, it may be worth it, right? So all this stuff in advance, mapping it out, you while you're clear headed, um, is really going to be important down the road. Let me check. Are there any? Sorry. No. Okay. Um, Okay, so these are some fantastic resources. So I'm going to go to first Explore JD. For those of you who are still formulating the law school list, I'm gonna pull this up. Many of you, I imagine, because it's only October, your law school list is not final. And I'll be honest with you, it shouldn't be final at this point because there's still so much recruiting that these law schools are doing. They're still sharing all kinds of information with you. So, you know, don't be afraid to still be open. And even after you make that initial submission to law schools, you may come across another school. It's like, oh, I don't know where you've been all my life, and you apply. So use tools like Explore JD to oh, I think it got upset with me. All right, let's do this. Use tools like Explore JD to help you identify and prioritize what schools you may want to go to. All right, so what school do I get in-state tuition at? Texas. Super quick walkthrough of this. It's so fast. And once you get your results, um, it's pretty neat. So you're going to say, I'm going to attend school full time. Oh, are you doing this to me? The spinning wheel of death. No. Okay, while that's happening, let's look at the loan calculator. So anybody that's trying to map out financing law school, these are all resources through Access Lex. They should be your second best friend because they have so many cool tools. And they speak to us. We send reps to speak to the students all the time. So this should be familiar to you, at least on some level, but if not, here you go. This tool is designed to help you map out how much money you're likely going to spend based on the school that you've stated an interest in. So I kind of already went through, it shouldn't take but a second. I already went through and said, okay, if SMU is the school I want, you know, what's my current loan situation? I've got a Stafford loan, interest rate of 3%. Um, what's the cost of attendance? So thankfully, because I punched in the school, it already knew the cost of attendance and it mapped that out for me. Um, it also asked for my estimated living expenses. So in this box, it lets me also include if I have a car payment, or if I have other debt, like I can map out how much money I'm going to be spending over a 9-month period, add that to the total uh, cost of living. Okay. And here that is. So room and board, this is how much it's going to cost me to live for 9 months out there, transportation, personal debts, other. Let's say other is like my need for fashion, right? I need to shop. Okay. Who can stop 9 months? No shopping? Get out of here. I'm gonna add
Hey,
other. Yes.
I can't really see the loan calculator website. I'm still like, I don't know if others are having problem with that, but I'm still on that PowerPoint.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's do this. Screen share, loan calculator. Uh, can you see it now?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Perfect. Oh, well, I'm so sorry, guys. I was clicking away. um, so I went through a lot of stuff, but ultimately these are the things that you'll have to take a peek at. Annual income during school. So I'm not planning on working during school. If I have savings, I've got maybe $1,000 in savings. Who knows? Other financial assistance per program year. Um, I don't really have a lot of assistance. I'm gonna leave that at 0. All right, I got a Dean Scholarship and I just got awarded the Smith Scholarship. You know, Great Smith Foundation is paying 15,000 one time for law school, and that's 5,000 a year, right? So now I'm going to calculate how much money I'm going to be spending on law school. Now the number is going to be shocking, okay? But it's a great planning tool. All right. And you can do this for every single school that you plan to apply to. I'm basically borrowing in loans 70,000 a year. How we arrived at that number, it breaks it down. If you want to know how much money you're going to need to be paying back, it breaks that back down. Again, scary numbers. Do not be freaked out. This is all in the vein of planning, right? So if some of these numbers scare you, you can start looking at different schools, right? You can start planning ahead to change your focus. But yeah, don't be too put off by it. But again, these are just major planning tools. All right, Access Lex. Shoot, I'm over time. I'm going to try and just power through. Access Lex is that tool that I was telling you guys about, where you can get some help for LSAT prep. Sidley Scholars is also one. This is the timeline. They usually have the deadline in January. So take advantage of those things. Can you see this? Okay, here, there's the spinning wheel of death again. Can y'all see Explore JD? Or do I need to share that again?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to close this one out. And I'm going to try to share it again. All right. So let's say my in-state tuition is for California. And I'm going to attend full time. Please don't give me spinning wheel of death. I hate the spinning wheel. I'm going to assume that it just doesn't like all my windows open. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. It's not letting me do Explore. But let me tell you what Explore JD does. It's so cool. So it takes you through, and it'll ask you some of the most basic things. Are you wanting to go to school full time? What's important to you? Is it money? Is it diversity? Diversity, and if diversity is a factor, is it diversity of student life? Is it diversity of faculty, or both? Is it location? Do you hate the cold? Do you hate the hot? I mean, this basic questions, but they weigh heavily on your decision ultimately. Do you care about the cost? Do you care about the ranking? Do you care about being in a rural area or a big city? There are some people that wouldn't get caught dead in a rural area, and there are others that feel like they would just be emotionally suffocated if they were in a big city. So these are factors that you can also use Explore JD to consider. And then at the end of it, it gives you this fantastic, I'm hoping the spinning wheel of death goes away. I don't think it will. Um, at the end of it, it gives you this fantastic presentation of schools that you should consider based on your preferences. And it even asks you, do you want to focus your education in a certain geographic area? If so, check all that apply. I mean, it's really, really awesome. I strongly encourage you guys to at least take a look at that whenever we're finished here. I think it's going to be very, very valuable as a tool. I'm going to go back to the slides because I'm kind of angry with this for doing this to me, but that's fine. Okay, so yeah, do as much research as you can. Research those schools. Check out the law school websites when if you get the spinning wheel of death and can't do anything. Go to the law school's websites and at least explore that, because you never know what kind of programs you have. Don't be afraid to email their admissions office either, or even call. I know calling may be a little challenging because we don't know whether or not they're going to have personnel available to answer questions over the phone. But hey, it's 5 seconds of your life. If nobody answers, you can send an email. But if you're able to talk to somebody, that's even better. Don't necessarily expect to talk to an admissions dean, and don't ask for the admissions dean. If you get them, that's fantastic, but it's an accident. So I would just speak to whomever you're speaking to, and then if you have more detailed questions, you can send it to their general admissions email address, and those always get answered. Okay. And then of course, LSAC is another resource for you too. So quick tips for the personal statements. I get the feeling that many of you have already, created personal statements and submitted them. So I won't spend too much time on this. If you have not already worked on it, I think my general rules are make sure that you've done the research and the homework. I showed you how to go into the application to look to see if they're looking for a specific prompt or more general prompt. Um, so identify that first before you get started diving deep in a topic. And then, after you've explored their application, you discover that they only want to hear about a person that influences you, and you talked about a trying time instead. Save yourself that trouble. You saw on that map and I can go back a couple slides. You saw on that spreadsheet, I even put personal statement. Is the prompt general? Do they want to talk about overcoming an obstacle? Do they want to talk about why I want to go to law school? Make sure that you put that in the spreadsheet so that you can double check the statement that's going to that school is the right one. Okay. Is it good to put at the bottom, and that's why I want to go to blah, blah, blah law school? You can do that. I, I always say it's better to have just a nice statement and not have to worry about whether or not you sent the wrong letter to the wrong school. That is a headache and a half, and it happens all the time, and it makes you look silly. So just I would say write a statement and don't worry about putting, and that's why I want to apply to X law school. Unless they specifically say, tell us why you want to go to our law school. And even so, that should be just to that law school. Specificity beats generality. And by that, I mean, do not launch into a narrative of your entire life story from diapers to college. Okay, no, I'm not gonna say nobody wants to hear that. Your mom would love it. Dad would stay awake for it. Don't do law schools that way. Give them a specific snapshot of information that describes who you are, that answers the question for them, why I want to go to law school. You can write about anything under the sun, but if it doesn't help them decide why they should admit you into law school, you're wasting paper and wasting your breath. Okay? Make sure you at least, no matter what the topic is and what you write about, you're answering the question in their mind, why I should admit this wonderful human into law school. Make you the focus. What I mean by that is, let's say you decide to write about somebody that inspires you or motivates you. Let's say I want to write about RBG, right? And I just launch into the history of RBG's life and how awesome she is. Well, right now, the law school's thinking, dang, I wish I could admit RBG and not Amber White, right? I want them to admit Amber White. So instead of writing about how awesome RBG is, write about how your life has been impacted by exposure to her legacy and how your goals have shifted based on the way that you've seen her pave. That's a focus on me as opposed to a focus on her. All right. Take advantage of optional addenda. So if they offer a diversity statement, please write it. Any chance that you get to share about you, take it. 9 times out of 10, they're not offering interviews. There are some schools that do offer interviews. Okay. Most don't. So your only chance to sell yourself is in the paper options that they give you. So write about that. If you had a bad go of things for a semester and they really, really impacted your grades, you can use an addendum to write about, your GPA and how that was just a bad snapshot and, I'm better now, life is better, and my grades are better. If you had a bad go of it at life and that impacted one of your LSAT tests and that score was awful and the next score was amazing, please write that addendum and explain why that first test was pretty awful. Okay, law school resume. A lot of people don't know that your resume can be more than one page. Your professional resume should be one page. Okay. I stress your professional resume should be one page. Your law school resume should be as many pages as you need it to be, up to 3, to share all the things that you have been doing in college, to show that you are a well-rounded student, to show that you are a student of success and academic achievement, integrity, a student of service, all of that. Make sure that you highlight all of those things. So if you've been working and you haven't had a chance to do student orgs, that's okay, but highlight the work that you've done. If you have been doing student organizations and volunteering and you've been on the basketball team and you've been doing all kinds of stuff, but you haven't had time to get a job, again, that's okay. Highlight it and focus on the strengths of your experience. If you've just been getting grades and you've been reading comics books and in your Aunt Gladys basement and hadn't really been doing anything, for heaven's sakes, put the comic books away and do something. um, Anything at all, but at this point, I know going out and doing things is not as easy as it once was, but you can, volunteer at a call center, or I know Pre-Law Society is doing some remote volunteering activities. So by all means, please do some things that will make you a more well-rounded student. And I guarantee you, if you have only been doing school, your grades better be immaculate. And I'm telling you, that's what you will hear from the admission side too. Like, you need to have been doing something else. Um, if you have a gap in your education, again, that's okay. If you've taken some time away, or you went in the military or whatever, talk about it. That's okay. Um, Make sure you don't talk about high school. High school was great or terrible for some people. Don't talk about it. We don't need to talk about it. It's in the past. It stays in the past. Include scholarships, awards, accolades, honors, distinctions. Most people forget about scholarships. They're irrelevant for a professional resume, but they're absolutely relevant for an academic one. Okay. Do not use these terrible word templates. I can't tell you how many resumes I've had to uh, put in writing hospital and fix and resuscitate, because these horrible word. I don't know who uses these. What job accepts them? Just stay away from them. They're not fit for law school. Don't use them. So that's my official guidance. Um, Last bit is about resources under your nose. The fee waiver with LSAC, all these fees that I keep mentioning. So your CAS fee, your score report fee, your academic summary report, your individual law school application fees, your LSAT exam fees, those all go away if you qualify for the fee waiver. Now, the fee waiver should only be applied to if you're within 4 semesters of graduation, because it expires after 2 years. And I shouldn't say 4, 2 years, 2 years of graduating. It expires after 2 years, so don't apply for it freshman or sophomore year. It's way too early. Okay, but junior year, middle junior year, or even right before your senior year, right before you're ready to take the LSAT exam, apply for it. Don't, I mean, if you've already paid for something, okay, still try and apply for it, but try not to pay for anything until you've applied for the fee waiver. You're basically saying, I can't afford to pay these fees. And so the number one argument against you is that you're already paying the fees. So try to wait. LSAT accommodations. So there are many students that have, I don't want to say disabilities. I know that's not the word du jour, but different things that they require to be successful, right? So if you have a learning disability, if you have dyslexia, attention deficit disorder, if you have um, diagnosed anxiety and depression, or what have you, and you're already receiving an accommodation at UTA, this probably means that you need to be applying for an accommodation through LSAT, okay? 9 times out of 10, they'll give you more time, or provide some other accommodation that will allow you to better succeed on the test. But I can't tell you how many students don't know that they are entitled to an accommodation, or at least apply to an accommodation. So apply. If you get it, great. If you don't, it's okay. But sometimes it's really worth it to at least see. So go through and look at those requirements and make sure that you're applying for those testing accommodations. You have to do it, I think, at least 6 to 8 weeks ahead of your test, so don't wait till the last minute. You talk about PLUS programs, I won't talk about that. UTA.edu is a huge resource. While I'm queuing that up, please, if you guys have any questions, now is the time to fire those up before we end our day. But I am going to show people some stuff on this website, because a lot of people just have no idea that we offer these. Are there any questions? Feel free to fire them. Okay, so on our website, we've been very, very diligent about updating, for COVID-19. There's all kinds of links to, how we're providing our services in this time, how LSAT has been impacted when UTA shifted to pass-fail. We posted all of that information, and how LSAC, how law schools are viewing pass-fail. All of that is available on our website. GRE testing, anybody that's interested in taking GRE instead of LSAT, that information is there. Again, if you want to take the GRE, that's fine. You can't do both. So there is LSAT or there is GRE, but there is not LSAT and GRE when it comes to applying to law school. So just make sure that you pick a lane and stick in it. Resources. So scholarships. I will start there. A lot of people don't know that we have so many scholarships that we list out available to students for undergrad, UTA, okay, and law school. So those of you who are getting ready to apply to law school or applying now or looking down the barrel of that giant number of debt that we just saw on that calculator, you should be applying to every single one of these scholarships that you fit the bill for. So all of these are here. And I can't tell you how many people have told me, oh, I didn't even know stuff like that was on the website. Yes, it is here. It is here for you. So make sure to go through here. As far as summer prep programs, I mentioned PLUS programs and summer institutes. There are different options. Clio and the discoverlaw.org are your two greatest resources. Take advantage of these. And you don't have to be on the heels of graduating to do this. So if anybody's a junior, some of these are even available for sophomores. So for example, the Houston Law Center one, I know that you don't have to be a senior or junior to take advantage of that one as well. So go on here, guys. Fall in love with the uta.edu/pre-law website. We've got so much on here. And even when you think, okay, well, that's all that they have. No, there's even more. Okay, how to prepare, learn more about law schools. I mean, it's just so much. It was draining to put together. It's draining to talk about, but it's invigorating to actually go through and see that so much help is available. And after you've gone through all that, guess what? You still have me. You can talk to me. You can reach out, make an appointment. Anybody that wants to make an appointment can do so on the website. It goes straight to our booking page where you can make your own appointment. If for whatever reason it ends up conflicting with something that we have going on in our event, we'll always reach out to you and say, hey, we need to reschedule. But otherwise, you're always welcome to make an appointment. I think one of your questions, you asked that earlier about, how do we make appointments and when can we book appointments? This is how you do that. But again, the pre-law website is such a wealth of information. And we try and keep you guys abreast. So if you missed a newsletter, I send out newsletters all the time. Look at our courtroom and our beautiful people. If you missed a newsletter, we try very hard to keep those updated. The October newsletter is going to be posted on there very soon. You all should have received that email. If you want to go back and look at some past things that we had going on, those are all over here. Lots of stuff. So with that, I mean, that's the bulk of what I had to show you and to share with you. If you have any further questions, I've got another 10 minutes that I can spend just answering any question that you've got. And if I don't know, y'all know I'll find the answer. So what else? Are there any more questions, thoughts, concerns, comments, even if they're personal about you? I don't think anybody would oppose you asking a question about your specific instance because it actually may help them. I feel like silence is a good thing. Silence means I did my job, right? Silence means that, you're so filled with information, you can't possibly take any more. So, with that, I am going to close this out. I'm so thankful for you guys for joining this session, and I feel like it was helpful in getting you guys information. Again, take a minute after this is done and go check out Explore JD. It really is a pretty magnificent tool. I hate that they're just now coming out with things like this because that would have been really helpful for me during my law school experience. I think I things like that I would have definitely benefited from. Oh, let me see. Are there questions? Are y'all responding? Oh, thank you guys. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that we got a chance to do this. So with that, if anybody for whatever reason doesn't have my contact information, This is the best way to ensure that I am reached. And, you know, as far as email goes, y'all can email me directly or email the pre-law at uta.edu. Pre-law just means that it won't fall into a vacuum and it will be, you know, shining like a beacon. So thank you guys. I hope y'all have a brilliant rest of your afternoon.